What's going on, running fans? Welcome to Talking in Ovals. How is everybody out there? If you're a running fan, throwing fan, jumping fan, all around athletics fan, you found yourself at the right place. I'm Alex Cuesta. Dave Hyatt's over there. What's going on, brother?
Not much. I got to say, this is our 1 year anniversary show. What a crazy ride that it's been, and I'm just excited for many, many more years to come. It's been a blast, Alex, and thanks for helping get this all set up.
Yeah, it's been lots of fun. I think, when we first wanted to jump out and do this, we thought it was a good idea. And like I started talking, I do another show with my brother, and my brother was like, dude, that show's going to take off. He's like, it's niche. You and Dave know what you're doing. You know what you're talking about. You have connections. And, I think we're well on our way. I'm excited to what the next year is going to come, and we're going to be doing this for a long, long time. So I am pumped. Before we get into all the fun stuff, today is Thursday, August 10th of 2023. A little bit later than most of our shows, but we had things come up. We had a rainstorm on Monday. Things happen in life, and we are here on Thursday recording. If you like what you hear, give us a like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5-star, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the socials at Talking in Ovals. You'll see the logo. You cannot miss us. So before we get into this week's show, Dave, the luck of Talking in Ovals
seems to happen every time.
Again, every single time. So last week we had Marvin Bracy Williams on, and we had a really good show with him. Marvin's a real interesting dude. It's always fun to get an elite sprinter's perspective because they are very different than your middle distance and distance runners. And it's just really cool between talking to him, David Verberg. We hope to talk to many more, but it was cool because then also Marvin Bracy Williams goes out and gets a W in a big meet.
Yeah, he beats Christian Coleman. He beats other guys. He runs like a 992. So yeah. I think maybe we have something to do with that.
We do, because every time we've talked to a coach in season, there's a ton of PRs that go along the way. Every time we have been good luck for everyone. And I'm hoping for this next guest, we are going to be good luck for her and her athletes going into the cross country season. Our next guest is Noel Whitall-Johnson. She's the assistant cross country and distance track coach over at Toms River High School North, and much more in terms of her athletic career. And you will hear that on this show. What's going on, Noel?
Hey, Alex. Hey, Dave. Thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're very excited to have you. And as much as I do wish you success for North, but only when you're not racing against Manchester. If you're not going against Manchester, because I'm a Manchester alum,
I get it.
You could go beat South. I don't care if you beat South.
No.
So I'm looking forward to a great show. And, I want to start off with you, the same segment we start off with everyone else, our bread and butter. When was your spark as an athlete that you sat there and for the first time you thought to yourself, man, I could do this running thing for a long time? When did you get that spark and that drive to be a runner?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually it started back in elementary school. Back at Cedar Grove in Toms River, we used to do, I don't know if you guys remember the physical fitness test for gym.
Yep.
And we had to run the mile, and I loved the mile. I thought that was the greatest part of the physical fitness test. Like, I didn't like the shuttle run. That was a horrible part for me. But I remember loving the mile. I remember people walking, and I was like, why are these people walking? I just couldn't comprehend it. For me, it was the best part of the physical fitness test. And I remember the gym teachers commenting, wow, you're really good at this. And I didn't know. My parents weren't runners. I wasn't training for anything. I just naturally, I'd say 4th, 5th, and 6th grade is something that naturally came to me. And then I didn't really do much with it because, like I said, my parents weren't runners. There really wasn't a lot of youth organized running when we were younger. There wasn't like a club to join that I knew of. So anyway, fast forward to middle school, and I remember my middle school gym teacher saw me running at gym, and she's like, you really should do cross country. And I didn't think anything about doing it, so I didn't get a physical in time. And so I didn't end up joining until 8th grade. And that's kind of how it started from there. And I remember just being in 7th grade, though, and one of the reasons I didn't join also in 7th grade was I was on the very shy side. I was very quiet. And Dave, actually, your mom was one of my favorite teachers. I'm going to tell you that. I had her for 7th grade. It was for social studies. She was one of those people that brought me out of my shell. And I remember, not that she said to go do cross country, but she made me feel like I got confidence in this. And I remember the following year, and I was like, my teachers have confidence in me. And why don't I just try this? And I ended up doing cross country in 8th grade, and I was second to a very established runner. She had been doing Junior Olympics. I didn't know what I was doing. I literally was just running around the field at Toms River Intermediate East until the late buses came, and I ended up being second on the team. That's kind of how it all started from there.
What's really, really funny is I didn't start running at Intermediate West until 8th grade year.
And see, there you go. Yep.
And I actually got second in the whole county to Sean McCafferty.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It is refreshing.
I've been running for years.
Yes.
It's refreshing to hear somebody that's not like, I was doing another sport and I just started running. And because
nope,
we actually
I do another sport.
Yeah. Our first pure runner, because even me, I was a football player, soccer player. I always liked running. I wanted to do track, but I did other things. Dave was another one, all sports is sports. Like, you were a pure runner, and that is nice. So I am curious though, because when we did our, the physical fitness, the national fitness test, whatever it was, we had to hold popsicle sticks and drop them every time we went past the line on the soccer fields. And I remember the biggest annoyance is when you dropped your popsicle sticks and you had to go back and find them. Did you have to hold popsicle sticks? Was that
no? We didn't have to do that. That was really annoying.
Oh no! I mean, listen, we were Toms River schools. We were a little more sophisticated, Alex. So,
hey, listen, we are the redheaded stepsister, man.
That's right, Dave. That's right.
Hey, we have the Olympian. Okay, I'm gonna hold that over everybody.
Andrew Bauman, yep.
Andrew Bauman, baby, gold
medalist.
Yes, and we're still in the 4x4. So I'll tout that.
That is true.
But so that time you got the spark, you started running in 8th grade. So now walk through the rest of your career. You end up being second on that cross country team. Where did you go from there? What is the rest of your career like there?
So I feel like a lot of it also had to do with my high school coach, which was Bob Petruski. And
rest in peace.
Rest in peace. I know. I mean, listen, he was a great man. I know he was very loud and vocal, but say what you want about him, he was an amazing coach. And I owe a lot to him. So I remember when I was in 8th grade, like, he would make a point to come to the middle school meets and he would seek me out. Like, he just wasn't seeking out the girl who was the number one girl at the time, who also will go to run to eat with me at East. He was also giving me attention, and also the girls who were behind me, all of us coming in as freshmen that following year. And he made a point always to make sure he talked to me, and he made me feel very important. He did. But going into that first season of high school running, like, I had never trained in the summer before. I knew nothing about that. And that was a huge difference for me. I mean, I just ran when school started. That's what I did the year before in 8th grade. I didn't know about this summer training. And I remember I was very far behind the rest of the girls. I wasn't used to running in the heat, and I had never put that many miles on my body before. And I think this is interesting too, because when I listened to your Danielle Toro cast, she was talking about how she didn't even have running sneakers. I think I was wearing Reebok cross trainers, and I didn't have running sneakers. I don't even know how I made it through 8th grade with the sneakers I was wearing. And Aaron Petruski, I mean, in all honesty, this is how he was, yelling at me saying, what kind of sneakers are these? You got to go to the store, buy new sneakers. Yeah. I didn't know. So I remember seeing my friend on the team. She was wearing Asics. I don't know which style they were at the time. And I went to the mall and I got Asics sneakers. And from there, it's where it started.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, your old coach, who also ended up being a legendary track official, and I was looking through my mom's yearbook, like, a couple of years ago, and she went to high school with him.
She did.
There was all pictures that the Toms River High School when there was only South, there wasn't the other ones, and there was all these pictures of Bullet Bob Petruski, running down the picture. He was a good man. He was always, he loved the sport, and I was very sad to hear last year when all that happened. With him, because
it was devastating. He had been a part of my life for many years, and I thought after I left high school I would never see him again, and lo and behold, I come back as a coach, and I feel like I saw him more than I ever did. Because he was an official, and he was always at the cross country and indoor and outdoor meets, and I became very close with him. So it was very sad when he was passing away. I was fortunate enough to actually go to his house and say goodbye to him before he passed, and I'm so happy that I did that, because that's something that I always keep inside of me. And I owed him a lot, so I owed him a goodbye. Absolutely.
It is always funny that, the relationships you build, like there are people you could be close to teachers and things like that, right? But it's like
Mhm.
the bond that you build with coaches is different. It's a different bond, especially if
Yeah.
you become close. Like, look at us right here. Hyatt coached me for about a year, and we stayed fairly close. We texted back and forth, and now we're doing a show together. So it's like there is a different
Yeah.
bond that
Yeah.
you develop as a coach and an athlete and things
My
like
high
that.
school coach
Absolutely.
was and still is my hero, Mr. O'Leary. Like anybody who ran for him, like we had these huge Tom River South track, like like group texts and and a alumni page, and we threw them a party when they retired, and there were like 500 people came. Like,
That's awesome.
So
Yeah, it's an inseparable bond. I went through a lot with him. I had a lot of growing up that I did with Petrusky, and like I said, he wasn't always the easiest to get along with either. But I learned so much from him. I
I
really
mean,
did.
the best ones are the ones that you can butt heads with and still respect, right? It's okay to butt
Yes,
heads with your coach
absolutely.
as long as they still demand your respect and all that type of stuff.
and it was a whole different era then.
Agreed.
Like my coach got away with things that you could never get away with now. I was like,
Oh, Petrusky knew. He even told us later. He's like, if I had said that back, like I couldn't say that now. Like he
no,
already
no,
knew
no.
that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, you have to flow with the time. So I want to go back
Yep.
into the rest of high school. So you get through freshman year. What is sophomore year on like in high school? What is
Well,
your
so
successes,
actually,
any things that you went through and things like that?
yeah, so freshman year ended up being a great year for me. So even though in the summer, like I said, I had some trouble with the summer training, I ended up being second on the team to a senior. The
Wow.
girl who had been beating me in eighth grade, I don't know if it was the difference of she was really good at the mile and a half, and now we're at a 5K. And for me, the 5K was a better suited distance for me than the mile and a half was. So that girl who had been beating me in eighth grade, she was still on varsity, but I was the second girl to a senior now. And that girl actually, she will end up being one of my coaches at TCNJ one day. So I have a very strong bond with her. And anyway, going back to freshman year, so I was second on the team. It was a great spot to be in. There was pressure on me, but not the pressure of being number one. And I really just enjoyed it. And I just flowed right into the track season, indoor. I had never done an indoor track meet before, and that was a whole different animal. 20 laps, the 2 mile at Red Bank Regional. That was not exactly
Yeah.
a good time.
Hate Red Bank. Hate Red Bank.
Like I said before, I only ran one race there because we got in a fist fight with High School East,
I already told you that story.
and my team never went back. My coach was like, we're not going back.
You didn't miss much. I'm telling you right now.
Oh,
you don't want to.
It was awful.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was
couldn't
awful.
breathe.
Yeah,
Yeah, it could be
20 laps, the 2 mile.
you could be like a 220 half miler and you're for a girl and you're running like a 235 and you're happy at
And you're
Red Bank,
scoring.
like you're scoring. You might be winning the whole meet. Like it is that bad. And you're looking at it, you're like, the time doesn't matter. What,
Yep.
though, Dave? If you know one thing though, Red Bank Regional was pure racing because you did not care about the time. So we always complain
Exactly.
about people don't race and they time trial now. Make everything go back to Red Bank Regional. They'll be back to racing because nobody can care about the times.
You couldn't care.
No,
Everyone
Nope.
would just quit.
we won't have a show anymore.
That's true. I mean, the sprinters would run into a metal fence at the end of the 55. It was crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
About
but
that,
like
they didn't even have a pad.
there
Yeah.
weren't any like we had to run all of our states at Princeton, which
Princeton was-
they catch you without sweats on before the race. You couldn't wear spikes. Your coaches were way up top.
Yep.
It's a whole different era then.
It was whole different era. Agreed. Yep. So anyway, so I continued freshman year. I was pretty much second to my teammate Amy, who was the senior at the time, and rolling the sophomore year. Amy graduates. I'm now the number one girl on the team, and it was I was ready for it though. I will say between the training Petrusky gave me, and I feel like I had a lot of confidence in myself from being the second runner. Now I just took that now to being the first, and that's probably when this desire to want to be number one. I mean, it set in. Like that was something that probably set with me then for the rest of my running career. Like not that second place is bad, but I just always from that point on wanted to be number one.
So
Whether it was for my team or whether it was in the race.
So I have a question for you, and I kind of want to throw it to you too, Dave, because I never had this being a Manchester guy. But when you are one of the top runners in a Tom's River school, obviously there's 3 high schools, right? South, East,
Yeah.
and North. Is there also pressure and like bragging rights to be the best Tom Server runner, period? Like, is that something it's like, okay, I've
Absolutely.
climbed my pinnacle. I'm the top at East. I'm the top at South, but now I'm going to look around so I can be like the best in Tom Server. Is there always that like
Yeah.
extra competitive edge that you guys have?
Yeah. I mean, I was never that guy. Like, because I always said, like, I was never even the best on my team. I had Chris Greer, Steve Geiger, Jason Klaphouse. Like, I'd always, I was always like second guy all the time or third. But yeah, like I always said, if if Tom Driver had one school, they would win everything. Like
I said the same thing. Yep.
Yeah.
There was a little added pressure to wanting to be that number one Tom Driver runner, but I embraced it and I thoroughly enjoyed it. That's what I wanted to be. I didn't want to settle for being second. But it was hard, though, because you had South and you had North, and North at the time was still a great powerhouse. Jim Jackson, I believe, was still coaching the girls' team at that time, and the Limpy girls were there. It was a great team.
Well, I mean, but like a lot of your competition then came from other schools in Ocean County. Like, there were the Ocean County girls, because you and I graduated the same year, right? 96?
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, like, there was a lot of pressure just from Ocean County itself. It was loaded with distance runners.
Yeah, Brick Township actually had a bunch of good girls too at the time. They were loaded. So it was competitive, but every time there was a county meet, like I would think about that meet for weeks. I just wanted to be all county so bad. And I was never a county champion, unfortunately, but I came close to it. But it was always that Ocean County meet, for some reason, some of those just stick out to me more than even other races that were bigger. I don't know what it was. There was a crowd there. There was an atmosphere there. I can see it today when I'm at the meet and I'm coaching. Like, I don't know. I just embrace it still. I just feel that energy. And I remember feeling it back then as well.
See, you were always going, for that individual, like, whereas like I was like, my like team was really, really good. Like, I think we got first, and second in all 4 years that I ran in high school for Ocean County. So like, we were more like a team concept. Like, we never had anyone win it. It was all just like pack in 5 guys in the top 20.
Yeah, you guys were a great powerhouse. You had that pack. That was amazing.
Yeah. And, I think one thing about Ocean County Park and running at counties is if you're an athlete, you look at that and you jog the course like you always do. And you're just like, I can run really fast here today. Like,
exactly.
It is like such a fast course. And as comparative, like, you're going to go from counties and then you're going to be like, I'm going to be at Holmdel for like 3 straight meets now. Like, I'm going to really enjoy this at OCP.
Yeah.
We were lucky, though, because we had South Jersey, which was even faster than Ocean County Park.
Yeah, that's true. You with the Egg Harbor stuff and down there.
Sectionals were always faster.
Yeah. So you continue on. So sophomore year, you take the reins.
Okay, so sophomore, I take the reins. I made it. I mean, my team was good. We were second probably in the county that year. I think we were second my freshman year too. But then I made as individual to meet champions. And I have to say, that was where I wasn't expecting the pressure I felt because I had always had my teammates with me. Yep. And now I'm on my own. And that was a different feeling. And I as a 10th grader, I didn't really know what to do with that. I know some people would be like, yes, I made it. This is awesome. I'm just going to go out there and see what I can do. I think I was like 38th that year, which, I mean, it's not horrible, but it wasn't great either. And I just think I look back at that race and I wish I could redo it because I think I just let the pressure get to me. And what am I going to do? I was a little kid, basically. I didn't know how to deal with that yet.
38
up at 15, 16 years old. It's
really good. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, that's actually like you look at it now, and I guess with you downplayed your career when we were just talking earlier, but after your accomplishments that you've had, you could definitely go and look back and be like, yeah, maybe I could have done that better. So what was the rest of
and that's a good point. You're right. I mean, looking back, you're right. It isn't that bad of a place to be. That is a true. And then junior year, I continued on, number one girl on the team again, and then made to be a champion as an individual. I still had a hard time at Holmdel with the pressure. I just never learned to deal with it. And I remember even like my assistant coach at the time, she would take me up there to run workouts before the meet. And there was just something about that meet. I don't know, just not having a team with me. I wasn't ready to handle it yet. And it kind of stinks because that was probably my junior year cross country in high school was probably my last, I'd say for cross country, my last great competitive race in high school, because after that I went through with some girls go through in high school. My body just changed. I grew up. I went from being 85 pounds as a freshman. I was now 116 pounds, but not bad weight. It was just muscle, and I grew up. And it took me about a year and a half for me to actually deal with that new running weight. And it probably wasn't until spring track my senior year that I was actually able to compete with having a different body. And I think that's a hard thing for girls to go through at that time. You know, if you go through it in middle school, you kind of get through it. During high school, when you're trying to be the best you can be, it was a really difficult thing for me to deal with.
Yeah. So what was that like mentally as you're sitting there and your body is changing? What is, you know, as a high school kid, you get a zit the morning before, you don't want to go to school. So it's like now you're dealing with something that, you know, me and Dave are both guys, so we don't deal with that type of body change.
It was hard because most people wouldn't see it because I now looked like a normal person. I looked like a child before, and now I just look like a high school person. I was still very thin, but I wasn't the thin I was. And it was hard mentally because now I have girls on my team who I was, you know, beating, who are now just destroying me. I had a hard time keeping up with them. And it was even girls on other teams who I had previously beat. Now they're beating me. And I was a little depressed. I'm not going to be honest with you. It was a very hard thing for me to deal with. And my parents didn't know how to deal with it. I mean, I was going through, you know, like something they had never encountered before. I mean, they weren't involved in like high school sports like I was. And they didn't know how to help. They helped me the best they could by loving me and, you know, telling me it's fine. But like I needed more than that. And, you know, Petrusky was good. Like he had seen girls go through that, but there's only so much he could do too.
Yeah.
You know, I had to wait it out and I had to just learn to run with this new body. And honestly, it took me about a full year to do that. Like I said, it probably wasn't until like my cross country senior year. I look back at those times. It's a little embarrassing, to be honest with you, but like there's nothing I could have done. I was still training hard. I wasn't like not doing my long runs. I wasn't like taking, you know, days off. I was doing everything I was supposed to do. My body just was like, nope, not going to be where I was the year before. So that was a little difficult for me.
So what's your advice to high school girls that are going through something like this right now, that they go from being that freshman, sophomore, that really tiny, like not hitting puberty yet girl that's super fast, and then they start to develop into a woman, and I've seen a lot of girls just kind of drop off, right? Because they get. What is your advice to those girls to just? Because you obviously trucked along, and we're going to talk about your collegiate career. You had an absolutely fantastic collegiate career. Thank you. What would be your advice to any young girls listening right now that may be going through it or might be going through that in the future?
Yeah, so I see it through my own high school girls because I see some of them coming in, they're so tiny, and they go through that during the high school years. And the biggest thing I can tell them is I tell them my story, and I tell them just to hang on. And I tell them, like, as hard as this is right now, like, if you can give your body a chance to adjust to this new weight and you keep doing what you're supposed to be doing, like do your workouts, do your long runs, you know, eat right, sleep, do everything that you know you're supposed to do. In the end, it's going to work out for you. And I have seen girls who didn't want to wait and they gave up on themselves and they ended up quitting. And then I've had girls who stuck with it. And honestly, by senior year, they were back to where they were, if not faster. But it is difficult to stick it out, though. It really is when you're not used to running with this new kind of weight on you. And it's hard because people who are not in the sport think you're crazy because they think, well, you look normal. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not overweight. You don't look like any different than everybody else walking around in high school. But running wise, it is very difficult to run with those extra pounds on you.
How much
so I just tell them to wait it out.
How much does having a good relationship and trust with your coach buy into that too? Because as you're going through this, you probably are sitting there going like, coach, give me something different, like work with me here. Like, and as he's like, how much is your trust in the process and trust in the coach a factor in what you were able to do?
I think that's why, I mean, I've been coaching now. This will be my 20th year. And I think it's the bond I have with the girls that has kept me around so long. Like I look around and like most of the girls who I started coaching with stopped to be moms. They didn't continue. Like when I go to a meet, it's mostly older women or really younger women. There's very few of us that are my age there. And I get it because it's hard to raise children. And I have 2 little ones at home and be at a meet all day, especially spring track. You guys know how much time spring track takes up.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, But my whole thing is the bond with these girls. I have developed relationships with these girls where even after they graduate, I go out to dinner with them. I've been at weddings. I mean, I'm around when they have movies.
Megan Blue. One of my best friends is
Yes.
Megan Blue. And, you coached her, and she's
Yes,
actually one
I
of the
love
reasons.
Megan.
Yeah, Megan, she was talking to one of her people, and they sent me a text, and they're like, they should have Whitall on. Like, and
Well,
then they reached out, and that was, so
yeah, and like,
a good connection with them.
It's funny you mentioned Megan, because I remember the first time we had a varsity standard at North, and when she broke that, I actually remember bawling my eyes out. And she didn't win the race that day, but it was a personal accomplishment that she had. And that's my connection with these girls. And that's why I try to develop a trust with them. So I have talked to them about body issues before and things like that, because I want them to be comfortable talking to me about it. Because having a male coach in high school, I'm not saying that Mr. Petrusky didn't try to help me through it. It's just different coming from a female who actually went through it.
Of course.
Absolutely. I could never, like I said, guys, we really don't go through that. We go through different development. Our muscle develops differently. Our bodies develop differently. So when we're looking at it as a guy, we can try to empathize, but getting into that, like, it's not possible. It really just is impossible to get in there. And our best advice would be to turn to our significant others and say, a girl said this to me today. Did I respond correctly? Do I need to go apologize? How do I fix this?
Yes.
Like, that's the only way to get around it.
Yeah. I mean, on a quick side note, I don't know if, we were talking about Homedale Park. I don't know if you guys saw the newest rankings on Flow Sports. They ranked the hardest cross-country courses in the country, and number one was Homedale Park.
Wow.
I believe it.
I mean, since they kind of fixed Van Cortlandt, I can't see it being harder now, because Vanny is a different course now that they eliminate a lot of the backhill stuff.
Yeah, it's on Flow Sports on Twitter. They're in Homedale Park was ranked number one, and it was a picture of one of our former guests, Emma Zawatsky, on the Flow Sports.
Nice. Did they close the comments so that people can't argue? Because that's put it up there and you close the comments.
Some people were like, well, my county course in Iowa. And people were like, I don't know.
You know what they should do? They should have like, this could be, we have to pitch this to Merber. Merber should go to every single hardest course about all the 50 states and run
I like
5K
that.
on it. Run like a hard 5K on it. Maybe not all out, but a hard one, like a good like tempo 5K. And then he can be the determining factor of what is the most difficult course. I feel like because he's in great shape. He could still go do it.
You know how many old friends that I talk to now, they're like, I'd love to run on this Homedale course now with all the training and these shoes. And I'm like, stop being a bitter old man. Like, just let it go.
I'd love to run on this Homedale course now. It's so much easier.
I wouldn't like to in the shape that I'm in now, but when I wasn't sure.
I would roll down the course now.
Yes.
Yeah, I would definitely like get up top and be like, roll me down the bottom hill, the last mile hill.
Yeah, rolling would be fun.
If I tried to do the bowl, I would just like crawl up at the end. It would be miserable.
Even when I go there for practice and I'm going up that first hill and I'm like, I forgot this first hill is this hard. Like, I'm out of breath.
That's the hardest part of Homedale. That first hill takes all the wind out of you.
Because the second mile has the bowl, but the rest is flat. That first mile is a long incline, and then you get into the woods, roller coasters, and you go around the triangle.
You have to sprint that first like 250, 300 to not die in the little the shuttle spot there where they funnel you in, and then you're doing another like 600 meters uphill with elbows. Everybody, I'm sorry if you don't know, there's a whole lot of elbows that goes on hill. So it's like, because then the coaches are all at the end at the beginning of the bowl, and it's like, hey, we weren't doing anything. So who has a high, who's not in the lead pack, that's like a top 15 runner. It's like, wait a minute, what you guys do? Yes, cross country is a contact sport. So
you finish your high school career, kind of, it didn't go as well as you wanted towards the end. What was it like going to college, and what went into your choice to go to TCNJ? Was it proximity? Was it you really liked the coach, or was it a place that you felt that you could have some success at?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, I ended spring track, like I said, my senior year on a good note. So I knew I wanted to run in college. Even if that spring track hadn't gone well, like, I still had that spark in me where I wasn't done with this. Like, I was going to see it out to the end, and I knew I wanted to run in school. And so when I talked about my freshman year, I told you there was a senior who was ahead of me, she ended up going to TCNJ. Her name is Amy O'Donnell, now Amy Caruso. And I remember her talking about how much she loved it there. And now she was going to be a senior there, but she talked to me about how she loved the coaches and the girls on the team. And honestly, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. So I wasn't going to go out of state to some expensive school. I already knew what I wanted to do. And I thought D3 was a perfect fit for me. And I did visit a bunch of the schools in New Jersey that were Division III schools. And that team and those coaches, to me, I felt like home. And I had never been away from home from my family, for an extended period of time like that. And I knew I had to go somewhere where I felt comfortable. And from the moment that I went there for like a recruiting visit, I just knew I just loved it there. And a lot of it had to do with, like I said, the coaches and the teammates. And I just, it was right from there, from my senior year, and I went for that recruiting visit. I was like, this is where I want to go.
Did the name change on the college disturb you at all? Because that happened like right the year you went. It was still Trenton State, and then it became New Jersey. Did that kind of look at it like, do I want to still go?
Me, it was, to me, I didn't care about the name, but there was people protesting in front of the school.
My mom was one of them. She was Trenton State. She refuses to call.
Mrs. Hyatt.
That's okay. She refused to call. I remember one time that they called her like, "Oh, we can get you all new rings and stuff." She wrote in this scathing letter back like, "I went to Trenton State. I didn't go to college in New Jersey." I'm like, "Mom, who cares?" No, it's a bone of contention with her still to this day for whatever reason. I'm like, "It's the same school, Mom. Let it go." It's like Rowan used to be Glassboro. No one cares.
True. Good point. Yeah. Oh, there was pickets. There was rioting. It was crazy. I'm not rioting in a bad way, in a violent way, but just like people were really upset about it. And it calmed down towards the middle of my freshman year, but it was bad for a while though.
I do have to say the acronym is better. TCNJ rolls off the tongue, but Trenton State kind of sounds more badass. So it's a give and take.
It's a give and take. Agreed.
You could say I went to school in Trenton. That's pretty hard. That's pretty badass.
That's pretty hardcore. Yeah.
So you get there. Did you start to have a sense that you have adapted to this new weight and to this new body? So was that still an issue when you were a freshman, or was that all kind of mentally past you and physically past you?
Yeah, so I wanted to start this new chapter in my life, like a fresh start. So I kind of put it behind me, and I went into the summer training. The coaches had given us a plan to follow during the summer, and I did everything I was supposed to do. Like, I didn't go there thinking, oh my gosh, I didn't do that run this week. Like, I did this plan that they had put together for the freshmen, and I did what I was supposed to do. And I got to we had a camp before school actually started, and I will say, like, the only thing that was different for me was their distance pace obviously was a lot faster than what I was used to. And that was hard for me at first. Like, the whole body issue thing wasn't an issue anymore. Now I had to get used to actually doing a distance run at probably the pace my tempo run used to be. And I had to adjust to that. But I remember, I kept saying to myself, though, like, I know I can do this. I put the work in this summer, and I had that in the back of my mind. So I never doubted myself I could do it. It just took me about a month, I'd say, to get used to this new pace for training. That was probably the most difficult part for me.
Did you take an official visit to TCNJ before you joined?
I did. I took an official visit, and that's what I said, like, won me over was the girls on the team and the coaches. I really felt this strong bond and connection with them. So Steve Dolan, who was the coach at the time, will become eventually the coach at UP. He's the coach at UPenn right now. Yeah. Phenomenal coach. And also Tim Collins, who was the assistant, also phenomenal coach. And it was just the right combination for me. And it's interesting because Petrusky and Steve Dolan were complete opposites as far as, like, Petrusky was very loud and vocal. Steve was more matter of fact. But like, I still was able to adjust to that. And I was like, oh, you're not going to yell at me for this? Like, in the back of my mind, I was always waiting to get yelled at for something. But I was just used to that from Petrusky. And that was just his way. It's, and Steve was just a little different. But the training, I have to say, that Petrusky had me do in high school, obviously at the college level, it was, to the next level. But I have to say, any kind of workout that was thrown at me, I really was like, okay, I've done this before, maybe not at this scale, but Petrusky did do this with us. So it's like some girls on the team were like, I've never done this, anything like this. I'm like, I have, just not this fast, Right. So I was comfortable with the workouts that were thrown at me.
I will say this, that when it comes to official visits and anybody that does them, I went and did a run on a bunch of my official visits. They are nothing like the runs that you do when you're actually training. You do not take your official visit kids, especially if you want them on the team. You take them on a nice, easy run that you know they could do. And then you sit there, and once they get there, it's like, all right, cool. We're going to do, 6:30 pace, and then we're going to hammer down that last mile fast as we can. Bye. It's like, wait.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened. Yeah. The first day of that training camp, I was like, I don't even know. I don't even know what just happened. These people are way ahead of me. But like, it was all the freshmen. We were kind of all in the back. We were just like, this is just way faster than what we're used to.
Yeah. So your freshman year of your first season in college, you guys end up getting third in the D3 national championships.
Awesome.
In cross country. That had to be really cool. Like knowing like, wow, like we just got third in the whole country and it's my first season running.
That was pretty amazing. I mean, I was a part of so it was funny that first year, I remember the first meet was at Ryder, and I said, okay, I know like some of my training runs were not the same pace as these girls, but I don't know, I had this in me that I was like, I'm just gonna give it all I got today. And I ended up being the second girl on the team that first meet at Ryder. Now, as the season goes on, I don't stay number 2. I'm mostly like 5 or 6, but like just to be a part of this team that went to nationals, like I was like, I can't believe we just went to nationals. Like, this is just the most amazing feeling ever. And, a bunch of my teammates that year were all Americans, so I had great girls to look up to. And I was just so happy just to be a part of it. Now, once again, this happened to me in high school, that big meet at nationals. I did not perform the way I would have wanted to. I just got nervous that day, and I don't know what happened. I kind of just, blew up, as they said. That wasn't my best race, but for my other teammates, they did great, and we were able to, place on the podium that day.
Right.
So that was good.
What is good though is as your college career progressed, you definitely showed a lot more on that national level. So you definitely figured out something, whether it was in track or XC. Talk about some of the times where you were, where you were contending to be the individual national champion in all of D3, whether it was in the 5K in track or I think in cross country one year you got second.
Yes.
Right. I mean, that's
So
that's great stuff.
So my sophomore year, I was then like the 2 or 3 girl on the team, and then like it was like a situation where I knew like next year these girls are gone, and I'm going to have to take the reins. And I ended up just taking my training to the next level. Like probably that summer I did up my mileage a lot, and I did pretty intense doubles, not every single day, but I would, maybe like 4 days a week. I mean, not to the point where I would get hurt. I knew I was doing it in a safe way. And there was just this, I felt a responsibility now. I'm going to be a junior on this well-established team. I need to be a leader, and I also need to step my game up. I don't want to just be a part of the team anymore. I want to be the leader. And that's kind of what happened. The first meet, I remember we were at Dickinson College, and I remember holding back a little bit because I guess I had just trained so hard all summer. I couldn't believe I was actually in the front of this race. And I remember this girl ended up beating me from Salisbury, and I was like, why did I let her beat me? And I remember my coaches were like, why'd you let her beat you? And I'm like, I think I just got freaked out from being up in the front. And then after that, I have to say it just kind of took off from there. I don't think I got beat in a race that year until I went to nationals, and I was second. I was the regional runner of the year, and
Cheryl
Smith from Cortland. Yes, good job. Yep, that's who it was. And she was a phenomenal runner. And I was actually in third that race. And there was a girl from Chicago.
You got her back on track.
I did. That's right. I did get her back in track. And this girl from Chicago and Cheryl were both in front of me, and I was just like, I got to go for this. And I made a move, and I passed the girl from Chicago going down the straightaway. But Cheryl Smith, unfortunately, was so far, I couldn't get to her. But I always say if I had a little more, maybe I could have got her 100 meters more. Maybe I could have got her. But that race, she got me. But I think that's when I realized, I was like, this is what I want to do. It became the most important focus of my life, probably at that point more than even going to school to be a teacher. It became my entire world.
So then
probably from that race on.
So then you come out, spring track comes about. And at that point, I believe there was no 3K, right, for the women?
We had 3K indoors, but we didn't have it outdoors. Yeah.
Because I don't think which is, and we didn't have that in the Olympics until,
Yeah.
They actually don't now because they used to have 3K, but then they went to what the men have, 5 and 10.
Yeah, well, actually, no, I still had a 3K, but the 3K for the men turned into a steeplechase. So that wasn't a thing for me. So there was still a 3K. But so that following spring, I ended up qualifying in the 3K and the 5K. And I ran both at nationals, and I was an All-American in the 3K. And then I ended up winning the 5,000 that day also.
So what is it like being national champion? like how does that feel? Like, I'm the best women's 5,000 meter runner in the nation for all of D3. Like, what is that feeling like? Or like, was it more a feeling of elation, or was it more a feeling of relief?
So probably a little bit of both. Cause I mean, back then, I know this is dating us, but like the internet was just starting to be a thing. And I remember looking online to see I was ranked number 1. And I remember going into that race saying, I got to win this. Like my times have beat every single person here. And then I remember the race started, and it was me and Cheryl Smith, the girl from Chicago, and somebody else. We kind of broke off from the pack, and we ran a bunch of laps together. And it was probably like the last 400 meters. I always tell him this too. Jay Resch, who's the coach at Stockton. Well, at the time he was running for Stockton. I remember him being, he's a great guy. I remember him being in the crowd, and I remember him telling me, I remember him yelling something like, "You're number 1," or whatever, "You got this." And I was like, I am. And I remember in my mind, like, I should be winning this race. And I just took off, and I was like, whatever happens, happens. And I remember the last 200 meters, I took off, and I remember running into the arms of my coach, Tim Collins at the time, through the finish line. So it was elation because I was like, oh my God, can I even believe I just won this race? But it was also relief because at one point in that race, I was like, why are these girls still around me? Like, why are they not falling behind? Like, they want this too. I got to make sure I work for this.
It's such a mental battle, even in the race, because like it's so easy to just say I gave up, or I could, step off the track and say that my ankle hurts, or, there's so many things that go through your mind. But when you make that choice to just go for it and say, I can live with or be okay with whatever the outcome is, but I would feel better if I made this move and went for it and then got beat than if I never made this move at all and then I got beat.
Absolutely, because I knew I had to go with at least 200 meters because I wasn't a sprinter, and if I left it to the last straightaway, they would have outkicked me. I had to make that move then, or it was never going to happen.
That's awesome. So did you run the 3K or the 5K first at nationals?
I ran the 3K, and then I ran the 5. So the 3K was the first day, and then like 2 days later was the 5K.
So did you have confidence? Because obviously you struggled on the national stage. You took second in XC, so that had to give you a little bit of confidence. Yeah. Like you were able to have a breakthrough. Did it give you even more confidence heading into the 5K that you were able to again perform well on the national stage, be an All-American in the 3K, and kind of run as the person that you can be? Did that give you all the confidence instead of, because 3K and 5K, I don't care if you have a few days rest, that is a tough double. And you're going from moving your legs in 2 different ways. With a 3K, if you run a fast 3K, you're going fast. You are, as close to running you're running at 80-85% the whole time. And then the 5K is a little more tactical, where you can't go that fast the whole time. You have to be a little more strategic. So, and that was pre super spikes, where your feet actually hurt after you wore spikes. Yes.
Absolutely.
So did you definitely, that gave you confidence going in, being able to do that national performance in the 3K and then coming into the 5?
So all those things I talked about before, like when I got to like those higher level races, I would collapse. Well, I think starting cross country, winning, like getting second in the nationals, and then running that 3,000 and also doing well. I believe I was 4th. I was like, I got this. Like whatever obstacles that used to haunt me before, like it took me a while. It took me years to do that, but like it finally sunk in, like I can do this and I deserve to be up here, and I'm not going to let a race just like, I trained so hard for this moment. I'm not going to let the pressure get to me. And so definitely that 3K gave me confidence going into that 5K. Absolutely. And you're right, totally 2 different races. I even tell my girls now, because they think the 2 miles so long, and I'm like, well, you go to college, it's kind of a middle distance sport. It's not really a long distance anymore.
It is. It's definitely, it's like the longer middle distance, but it's still really fast when you get to that
level. Really fast. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You end off your career a 7-time All-American. And
Yep.
you are a TCNJ Hall of Famer as of 2013.
Yes.
What did that feel like? When you got, how did they tell you? Did someone call you, tell you you're going to be inducted? Did you get a letter? And what was that feeling like being inducted into a school where, it all clicked, right? And everything came together?
Absolutely. So I remember the coach at the time had called me. It wasn't Steve Dolan anymore. He had moved on. And he had just said to me, he's like, we put you on, we nominated you. I don't know what's going to happen, but we'll let you know. And it was my first time being nominated, and the first time I was on the ballot, and I got in.
That's awesome.
And that was a pretty cool feeling. And I was just so excited because like that school had meant so much to me. Like a lot of my best friends are from that team, and the bonds I made with them and all the experiences I had with them, like it just kind of made it all complete, full circle. And a lot of them they were able, even though a lot of them at that point had kids and they were married and had jobs, they went out of their way to come to that induction ceremony that night. And that just kind of solidified it all for me. Like it really was a family that we had there at TCNJ.
That's really special. So I want to switch topics because we talked about your great collegiate career. I want to get to your road racing a little bit later, but I want to switch into this. You mentioned to us that at one point in your career, you suffered with an eating disorder. And, it is something that we haven't tackled on the show. No one we've talked to has, but I think it's something important to tackle. So when did you suffer from this eating disorder? And, it is something that is common not only amongst female runners, but female athletes, right? Why do you think it's something that is so common?
I just think that the common vision of a good athlete, especially a distance runner, is this skinny stick body. And I think that's ingrained in people's minds because a lot of athletes who are, talented are of that thinner frame. And I think that's kind of something that just sinks in to some people. And it's funny because I've seen many of athletes who are not of the same thin frame that are better than those girls who are sticks, but it is a common misconception that the skinnier you are, the better you're going to be.
So when did you struggle with your eating disorder, and kind of walk us through like what that was like, if you can? I know it's probably not fun to think and recount, but talk us through what it was like, what happened, and kind of what got you out of it.
Yeah, so I talked to a lot of the girls on my team about this. If I notice that there's someone on the team that I feel like might be struggling, I don't full on address it because I know how that feels. I give a general speech and I kind of share my own story. So I usually talk about when I was in high school, when my body was changing, and I became very picky with what I ate because I figured, well, if I don't eat this, then I won't gain this weight, even though I had nothing to do with it. But I think some things started then, like eating fat-free this or that, or like not eating this. And like, I kind of hid it more then. Like I was still eating dinner, so my parents didn't notice anything. But I became more picky about what I was eating. And then probably when I started running at that next level in college, when I got to that next level, I'm going to be honest with you, a lot of the girls were very thin. And I said to myself, if I want to be as good as them, then I'm going to have to be this thin too. And, you think with somebody who's 116 pounds doesn't really have a lot to lose, but like I was bigger than a lot of those girls that I was competing against. And so I made an admission. I said, I'm just going to eat healthier. And that turned into, well, now I'm actually seeing my times and my runs are actually getting faster. So let me start eating a little bit less. And then I started restricting how many calories I ate a day, which wasn't good because at that point I was running double runs a lot. And at first your body is, you have some fat to like take off. I mean, it doesn't look obvious, but there was. So it would eat that away first. So I was at first working, and it becomes an addictive, almost like a drug. Like the thinner I get now, the faster I'm going to be. And I will say for a while that was happening. It becomes very addictive. Like how thin can I get without this becoming an issue? So then I just kind of restricted eating. I would probably eat 500 calories a day, and it became an obsession. And if I ate more than that, I would actually lay in bed that night and think, how am I going to fix this tomorrow? What am I going to not eat so I don't eat that many calories the next day? My whole world became fixated around food. It was a very lonely, scary place to be because there was no one I felt like I could talk to about it. But I also didn't think it was a problem because I thought I was hiding it. I didn't see it becoming an issue. And when people would ask me, like, are you okay? Are you eating? I would become very defensive because to me, I looked exactly the same. I know I'm losing weight, but I didn't think I looked any different than I did before. And people started becoming very agitated with me because I wasn't accepting the fact that I was basically killing myself. So I'd say for about 2 years in college, I really struggled with that. Probably during the time I was running really well junior year. Like I said, I was running awesome. Why would I eat? I'm running pretty well, eating 500 calories a day. And it haunted me probably until halfway through my senior year. And because at one point, I hit rock bottom when there was nothing left to my body to eat away at. I started eating my muscle away. And that's when it started to go backwards. Now I started to run bad. And a lot of things just started happening to me. A lot of my friends had almost given up on trying to help me because I refused to get help. I didn't want help. I thought nothing was wrong with me. My parents were scared to death because every time they saw me, I was like losing hair. My teeth were loose. But all these things to me didn't matter because I just wanted to run awesome. And that sounds really crazy, but that was my number one focus. And it wasn't until I literally hit rock bottom that I decided to seek help. And that's when I, decided I need to fix this. Yeah. But I had to come to that conclusion myself, though. There was nobody that could tell me that something was wrong with me.
I mean, it's like any other addiction. You have to want to help yourself. No one can do it for you. People can give you suggestions, but until you hit that bottom, that rock bottom, or that place, and you just say, I can't do this anymore. And then, reaching out for help is a huge step, and it can really, really help. It's like, are there places to go, like an alcoholic has AA or detoxes or substance, abuse places? Are there groups and places to go if someone is going through this?
I feel like back then, because we're now talking the late 90s, I feel like there wasn't as many places. Like I went to a general counselor on campus. I feel like people now are so well versed in this that I feel like now you can find someone who specializes in this. At the time, I just needed someone to talk to. Because like I said, I thought I was very good at hiding it. Like I became a very good liar. I would just lie to people and tell them I ate things I know I didn't eat. I didn't care what I told people. I was very manipulative. I just wanted people off my back, even though I was actually killing myself, to be honest with you. I could have done permanent damage to my body. I mean, I didn't have like a menstrual cycle for 2 years, which I could have damaged my chances of having a baby one day. There's so many lifelong effects from this that, I'm lucky I got out of it. But people who don't realize, like, it's just not about eating. Like, you're really damaging your body inside. And I think my mind also thought people with eating disorders threw up, and I never threw up. I just didn't really eat. So in my mind, I didn't have an eating disorder. I was just limiting what I ate. So that's how I manipulated myself into thinking there was not an issue.
Absolutely.
And I think what's crazy is like what you mentioned and how you started it is how most people start their typical diets, right? It's like, no, I'm just going to eat better, right? Like I'm healthier. And it's like, and that's like, okay. And you can rationalize that. It's like, no, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm an athlete. I'm eating better. That's what I'm supposed to do. And then it's like, okay, no, I'm going to limit some calories. Maybe I shouldn't be doing 3,000 calories. That might be too much. Let's get down to a 2,000 and then chipping away. It's like things that initially seem and are at times healthy, right?
Absolutely.
Then eventually that's how you start to rationalize. I was like, no, I'm not doing anything different than I should be doing. I'm an athlete. I should be doing all these types of things. And, outside of it, 500 calories is something that, anyone can recognize. Eventually that does come to a very unhealthy point. There isn't a human body that can truly sustain on 500 calories, especially.
No, and I was running a lot.
And you're running a lot. And that's when you should be at 2,500, close to 3,000 calories running as much as you were. So your body was eating itself in order to continue to produce. And like you said, you are fortunate because we see a lot of, bone issues coming from things like that for people that, especially if you're running and now you're eating yourself. yourself and all these types of things. And, I'm happy that you are very fortunate that you were able to get away with a very good tale to tell people, a cautionary tale and not something permanent. That's, it's a blessing that you were able to get. But it's, it is very, very good that you are able to share your story.
Yes.
I know it's probably not easy, but it's something that I think girls need to hear. And it's like the weird juxtaposition, because yes, you were winning. Yes, you were running really fast. But would you trade that all for being healthy those few years instead? Like, would you go back, give back your national championship, give back your second places in order to sit there and be a healthy person? I feel like that's something that, like, I don't know. Would you? That's a call.
Well, you know what? Because fast forward years later, I'm running under this. We'll go into that a little later. My road racing team, and I was my 112 to 116 pound then, and I ran better than I did in college. Running and training and eating the way I was supposed to. And I actually live with that regret all the time. If I had just trained, if I just eaten healthier, maybe I would have, I had a great college career, don't get me wrong, but like, maybe I could have been even faster if I had just eaten, and like, I feel bad because my coaches did everything they could to help me. They were the best, most amazing support system I could have asked for. I wasn't home with my parents, They did everything. I feel like there was nothing more they could have done. It had to come from me.
100%.
Yeah. And it wasn't until my senior year cross country, I wanted to win because I got in second the year before. And I literally I think I ended up being like 15th at nationals, which, okay, fine. You're still All-American. That was devastating, but I don't even know how I made it through that race without like literally collapsing. I had no energy left in me. That was the moment I was like, what the heck am I doing? Like, why am I think I needed that moment to happen for me to realize. Other things also had me hit rock bottom, but like, that was one of the big things that brought me to rock bottom. Like, what the heck am I doing right now? Like, I just ruined my chances of winning my senior year because I didn't want to eat. Like, this is not right.
So for any,
so I live with that regret.
For any young lady that is potentially about to go through this, and especially if they're an athlete, would it be like good advice for you to say, instead of cutting off eating, talk to somebody that is like good with nutrition and develop a plan? Because I feel like what you were doing initially started off good natured, right? Like, let's cut out bad foods, let's eat properly. And that's all something we should be doing, especially as elite athletes and runners. Eat well, don't eat junk, get good sleep. These are all things. Is that something where if you're talking especially to other young ladies and they're thinking, okay, I need to get in better shape, should they right away go and address like somebody that can set up a nutrition plan for them instead of trying to take it upon themselves?
Absolutely. And that's what I ended up doing. So my coaches were very good friends with Jim Schlentz, who was running the elite team that I'll end up running for. And at the time, it wasn't his wife. It was an athlete on the team, Madeline, and she was a nutritionist. So out of her good nature, she took it upon herself to help me. Like, she didn't have to do that. Like, she didn't know me from anyone, but she was doing it as a favor because, Jim at the time was really close to my college coaches. And I will always be indebted to her because she literally was one of the people that helped to save my life. Like, she gave me a plan and said, this is what you're going to eat today. And she would call me all the time and she would talk to me. And I needed that. Like, I needed someone to be on top of me because I didn't know what to do at that point anymore. Right. I was kind of at a loss.
And I also think it's important, it's not always the amount that you eat, but it's what you're eating.
Yeah.
Which is, I just want to say thank you and commend you for telling this story. I think it's bravery, like I've been through some things in my life that I'm extremely open about, because if I can help anyone else, plus, in a tiny bit of a selfish way, every time that I talk about it or tell my story, not only may it help someone else, but it also helps me too, to remember what I have to do every day to just be a better person. So
absolutely,
it's not always easy, but I just want to thank you because it's a wonderful message. And it just shows that, when you're going through something, you might think that you're isolated and you're all by yourself and that you're alone, but there's other people out there who are going through the same thing. And if more people can be open and talk about it, that's why I love now that there's so many athletes in all sports who are so open now about their mental health and how it's a problem and how you have to take care of yourself. Because if you're not the best version of yourself, you're not really a good version for anyone who's around you in any way.
I agree. And I think that's why, like, part of the reason I hit rock bottom was all my friends who were basically my family on that team. As much as they love me, they had enough. Like, they were tired of me going, like, we'd eat dinner together. I'm eating lettuce and they're eating a meal. And like, it was annoying. And I look back and I get that now. Like, at that time, my friends were moving away from me because they had tried to help me so much. And like, I was just so defensive, and I was just like, what's wrong with them? Why are they so mad at me? Like, I didn't understand. Like, it was hard. And then, like, so my friendships were collapsing. My parents were upset with me. The coaches were trying to help me. I ran horrible. I just all kind of just collapsed all at once. And
that's what happens.
It was something that I had to go through. I had to come to it on my own terms, though. So and I feel like we all go through things, like you said, Dave, for a reason. Like, and I share my story with my girls on my team. So because I feel like there's so many people out there now that can help them, where I feel like back then I was lucky to have a person who was a nutritionist in my life, like, but other people may not have had that, and
like now, like, there you can go, there's things online, there's support groups. There's so many more options now that were not available in our time,
Agreed. And that just wasn't around.
I think it's great. And I definitely feel like people are more willing and open to talk about things, and that helps get everything out there and can really help people heal and find the support that they need and not feel ashamed and not feel embarrassed. Like, it's okay. No one's perfect. People do things every single day that they're not proud of, but it's how do we bounce back? That's
a good point, Dave. That's really true.
And
go
ahead. I'm
just happy that I ended up, recovering, and I ended up so my winter track, and I did get to nationals, still winter track, and then spring track, I ended up qualifying in 4 events for nationals. So that wouldn't have happened if I had I literally was probably 85 pounds. I was the body I was when I was a 13-year-old girl. Like, luckily I had gained the weight back naturally, and like, I didn't just like start eating. Like, I couldn't do that. I had to gradually incorporate things into my diet. It was a bit of a struggle, but I'm glad I'm a success story where some people aren't, and it becomes the thing that, haunts them for a long time.
Yeah.
And and it seems cliche, but like, everybody goes through their own battles and their own demons at times, and some at higher levels more extreme than others. But like Dave said, like you said, talk to people, like, be open. You're not as sneaky as you think you are. Like, you are never as good at hiding it. Like, we all have moms, we all have dads, we all have good friends, and they all notice. And so if you're ever thinking that you're good at hiding it, that just means that you're really exposed and you're not hiding well at all.
That's
so
true.
it's like,
I'll notice things some of the things my team do, and I that's when I know I need to have some kind of conversation. And it's funny, after I have that talk, a lot of them will come to me individually and they'll still start talking to me. So I feel like you said, we just all go through things for a reason.
Yeah, I work with a lot of kids now, and like, one of the kids I was talking to, and I said to him, like, don't do anything that you couldn't stand in front of your mom and dad and tell them proudly. And I feel like that's something that if you get to that point, like, you couldn't stand in front of your mom and dad proudly and say, I was laying on my bed worried about having 516 calories and try negative, and try, so it's like, that's something I think that's if you can't stand in front of your parents and say what you did proudly, just don't do it. Like, that's probably, good way to go about being a youth.
Yeah.
But,
so
go ahead.
You finish in college, you get everything taken care of in terms of, where you need to be, not just physically, but mentally, you're in a good place. Did you know that you were going to go and join a road racing team, or did that just kind of happen after the fact, or was that something that was planned while you were still in college?
So, like I said, Jim Schlentz had the A6 East team, and what will become his wife, Madeline, who was helping me with the nutrition. I kept very close in touch with them throughout my college years. And then after I graduated, he did ask me, he said, no pressure. If you want to come join our team, why don't you come run with us and see if it's something that you're interested in? And at first I didn't know. I'm like, I took a year, not a year from like not running at all, but I took a year just off from racing. I needed a break from it. Like, I had put so much into it At that point, and he understood. So he's like, whenever you want, why don't you just come and hop in with us at a practice or two and see if you're interested in running? And that's what I did that year. They were at home now, I'd come show up for a run or something like that. But I mentally just needed a break from all of it. Because I got myself at such a high level of training and running. And I was like, well, now I know like these ladies are like legit. Like Jim had, coached an Olympian, Kate Fonchelle. So I knew like what was going, like this wasn't just a club to go join. This was like, if you want to run and you want to get good, even better than you are, this is what you want. This is where you go.
He's coached some great high school runners too.
Yes, he's an amazing coach.
Ashley Higginson, like he's coached some absolute studs.
Yeah. And my coaches from college, Steve Dolan and Tim Collins, were both good friends with him. And they were like, listen, if you want to go to the next level, this is the guy you want to go there with. And so, like I said, after a year of kind of like hopping in with them for some practices, I kind of fully committed to running with them. And once again, just like when I started high school and college, at first I was like, oh, their pace is ridiculous. Like even the warm-up pace, I was like, I can't believe this is what they do for a warm-up. Like I feel like it was like 6:10 pace for a warm-up. I was like, I don't even know what it was. I'm just saying that right now. I was like, I can't join this team. But then eventually like your body adjusts, and Jim's just a good guy. Like he's very funny and like he makes you feel welcome. So like I felt like instantly a part of the team even before I was actually officially joined.
That's good. And that's a little different than a lot of clubs and pros like go through, right? Because now you're an adult. Now you want to go to races. Now you want to make some money winning these races because you're running legitimate races, especially if you're in that type of competitive club. And this is, still a little bit before these like Brooks Beast and some of these like, more established ones where the team is helping you enter into these big pro races. You're kind of training together. You go run your races, you come back and train together. So it's like, that's a little bit, and again, I like that you have a little bit different story than some of the other people that we've had that went into another level of running. And I think that's cool that you had a family feeling and openness that when you join a team, that you're joining a team. You're joining people that all want to succeed and see each other succeed together, which I think is something that I would like to see come back, because me and Dave talk a lot now that running now is just time trialing, right? And when you're time trialing, you're not competing. So when you're not competing, like the training is different. Everybody's training to go and hit a number. Nobody's training to help each other go win and succeed. So it's like a different time. So you join this road racing club, and I have to say, you have an extremely successful, and I think that's, to put it lightly, an extremely successful road racing career where you are a multi-time winner in some really, really big races, the Spring Lake meet, the Belmar meet, the George Sheehan Classic. Like, you are a monster in your road racing career. Like
a local legend.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did that feel like? What were the feelings like of now winning these races multiple times, big races that legitimate names come to and compete at? Kind of compare and contrast your two careers between college and your feelings in winning a national championship, doing well in college, and now transition here, still running faster than you did in college and winning other big races.
Yeah. So, it's a great question. So at first it was a little different because now I have a teaching job. I'm not just a college kid anymore. So now I have like responsibilities, like I have to pay rent. I'm not living in a college dorm anymore. Like all these different things. You have actually life issues. So at first it was a little different, but I had this amazing group of girls who were very well established. They were women. I can't even say they were girls, to train with. All of their aspirations were qualifying for trials or for this certain event, but they were very team oriented too. And I think that's why I enjoyed that team so much. So I guess, like I said, the biggest difference was now I have to deal with life and training, where before in college, you're still like a college kid and you don't have the responsibilities of life like you did back then. So I had to find a balance with that. And that was sometimes hard. So I learned that if I'm going to run, I'm going to have to run at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's what I started doing. So I have a really good friend, that friend Amy, who I've talked about before. She was coaching at the time at Jackson Memorial. She also wanted to run in the morning. So me and her would pound out miles in the morning. Then if I need to do something else in the afternoon, I would do that as well. So I found a way to make it all work, which wasn't as easy as having a practice time, which I was used to having in college, where your day is very scheduled.
Yep.
And then every week we would meet once a week in Freehold. So there was always accountability. So even though we didn't meet every single day like you did in college, I knew that he was so good. He would know if I did the stuff I was supposed to do all week. Like he's just that good, Jim. So I didn't want to get mad at me. I was like, nope, I'm doing everything he tells me to do. And I just developed this trust with him where like I knew if I did, and I had with my other coaches too, but with him, especially now I'm in a different era of my life. I guess I'm a teacher. I have like my life ahead of me now. Like I'm like, if I'm going to give myself to this right now, I have to really put everything into it. So I made sure I was eating right. I was lifting. I was doing yoga. I was now doing things I wasn't really doing. I mean, I lifted in college and high school, but now I had a trainer at a gym. Like I was doing all these extra things that I hadn't done before. And I would just go into these races. Like, I mean, maybe not my first couple years I was with him, because I was still kind of learning the ropes. Like going from a 5K to a 5-mile race is a different beast in itself too.
Yeah.
And you have international competition. Like there's women who, come here specifically to run these certain races for money. So it was just a whole different animal. So I get used to all that. But once I did everything I was supposed to do, and I trained, and I just got myself to the point where I got on that line and said, listen, if this person wants to beat me, they're going to have to literally die beating me, because I'm going to go after and get them. I had this whole new mindset that I really hadn't had before. Like I got on that line saying, I'm number one. Like even if I wasn't, I still went into the race thinking that, which would help me get through. Like if someone came near me, I was like, no, not today. And I would just take off so they wouldn't be near me. And it was great to see where I had come from, a girl who couldn't like function at the Meet of Champions in high school, who now like, I'm like killing it on these road races, 5 miles, totally different mindset.
And I think that's cool that you develop like the Prefontaine mindset, right? Yeah. Like, I think one of his famous quotes is like, anyone that's going to beat me is going to have to bleed to do it. And like that.
Yes, that's kind of how I was like, yeah.
That's awesome. And like you said, like and that's why I like what we do, Dave. I love it because we get your whole story, and we have like that shy girl, that girl that couldn't compete in big races, to national champion, to I'm the best on the road. Like that's awesome transition. That is as cool a story as and battling an eating disorder, overcoming it in the middle. Like I think so many runners like yourself and things like that don't realize, like until you really talk about it, how awesome your careers actually are. And I just love that we get to do this.
I know. I appreciate you guys having me on here. I know it is great. And like, I look back at all those road races, like that was 10 years of my life. That was longer than my high school career, college career. And I ran faster than I did even in college. And I think it's because I did all those things I should have, like, that's why I live with some of those regrets. And I tell the girls on my team, like, all those things I wish I could have went back. And if I had eaten right and I had done the things I was supposed to do, who knows what I could have done in college. Like, I know I ran great. I'm not taking that away, but I can't take those moments back now. But now I can go forward, and now I can train right, and I will eat right, and I will do all those extra things. And it was a great 10 years running with Jim. And he actually would set up some really cool races for me. So I remember he got me to run a 5K where he had a rabbit run with me, where Tim Mulligan, who also trained under Jim, paced me out to a 16:44 5K. And I had never done that. I didn't do that in college. I think my best was 16:51. So I was so excited that now I'm out of college, I'm still beating my times. And I thought that was pretty cool.
And if you didn't go through what you went through in college, you might not have had the mindset that you had when you were running on the roads.
Yep.
That's true.
Everything that happened was all for a reason to get you to where you were at that point. So I just have something quick. Did you ever miss running on the track, and what is the biggest difference between running on a track and road races? I mean, there's obvious differences, but like, is it a different mentality? Like, because like you go into a track race and you're like, well, I don't even have to know what the actual course is. Whereas like you're running on the roads, if you never run there before and you're up front, you better know where you're going.
That's very true. Yeah. So luckily this team that I joined with Jim, we did do track. We would do track races. We'd go up to the Armory and we would do that in the winter. And then we would do track races at Monmouth University, anywhere that had an open race, and Princeton would have open ones. We would still do track stuff. So I was still getting that fill of track, even though we primarily did a lot of road races. And I think like that helped me because I feel like I was able to get back that time I may have lost when I was going through some of those issues with my eating in college. So it was nice to have that back. But yeah, as far as the roads go, like you got to know where you're going. Because if you're in the front, you got to hope there's someone near you to show you the way. So luckily at the time, there was a lot of, I mean, there still is a lot of amazing male athletes too. So I was never like in the front where I had to worry about not following the course, but that was always a big worry of mine because that's like 5 miles to get lost. That'd be really bad.
Have you ever had that like motion, like where you want to turn around to the girls in like second and third, be like, where do we go? I don't know.
Yes.
Someone take the lead. Where do we go?
That happened to me one time. I was running the Toms River downtown dash and I was winning and I made the wrong turn and I had to turn around and I ended up getting second. I'm like,
oh no.
That happened to me in a high school race, and I burst through trees, and I still won the race. It was actually like they could have DQ'd me at the.
I thought you were going to say that happened to you while you were running a track race, and I was said that's probably fitting too.
That's hilarious. No, it was a Colts neck meet. I actually went out faster than I ever did. I had a huge lead, and it was like the last thing. And I forget which team it was. There was a team of guys that I was friendly with that saw me go by, ran onto the course, and was like, "Turn around!" And I like turned, and I saw the finish line. I was like burst through trees. There was an official supposed to be there, and he wasn't there. I blame the official. But
I'll blame the official. That's right.
I always blame the official. So, are you still competing, or have you joined the ranks of a non-athletic regular person like Dave and I?
So I still run every single day. I run with the girls I coach. After I had my son Colton, so he'll be 8 actually tomorrow. That's when I kind of took a back seat to the training, just because like I knew I wanted to start having a family, and that became my focus. I had put so much, I felt like 10 years of my life after college into it. It was now like I'm running out of time now to have kids, so I gotta now focus on this part of my life. So and. Wow, those little guys are time consuming. I'll tell you that. But
yep. Yeah, they are.
As you guys know. So it's a whole different life. But I will say though, like I still get up at 4:30 in the morning and run. I've kept that as part of my routine, and I'll run with the girls at practice. I've had some awesome girls on my team who I can run with, and I have to say now that like. So Colton tomorrow will be 8 and my other little guy will be 4 in December. I feel like I'm getting to a stage now where I would like to start maybe competing again. I hate saying the masters level. That's so weird to say, but like,
but hey, listen,
but hey, why not?
Take advantage of it.
Yeah,
I should take advantage of it. I know.
Kick some ass.
So one more something really, really quick. You know, in this day in track and field, like what do you think of when you see the fact that, you know, any race now we could see sub 14 in the 5K for women, sub 4 minutes in the mile for women, you know, like it's like 14:04 and like 4:07. Yeah. Like what, like when you watch some of these pros now, because like I'm in complete awe and I don't care what they say, training, shoot, like it's just, I'm just so impressed. Like I love that our sport has all these fast athletes, and especially on the women's side, like, cause you know, I remember growing up, it was like, well, a good, you know, pro runner is like an average, you know, to a pretty good average boys high school runner. Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Like college level, you know? So what do you think of when you see all these women running all these amazing times?
I mean, I think it's inspirational. It shows these like high school girls, like if you want this, you can make a career out of this. I mean, not saying it's that everybody can, but it is possible. And I feel like people know how to train women. I feel like better now than they ever had before. So it's not like about shoes. It's about how to coach a female athlete. It's not the same as coaching a male athlete. And I like embrace it. Like, I like all the press that a lot of these girls get to show you, like, there's these awesome role models in running. It's not just, you know, other, like, I feel like soccer girls get a lot of press and like other sports, but now running actually has taken a forefront in that. And I think that's amazing.
Yep. And we want to be there leading the charge, making these young ladies' names go out there. Now, a few things before we get out of here, because, you know, we've talked for a while and I love it, but we are not like a Joe Rogan podcast where we could talk for like 9 hours and people listen. So
I get it.
So New Jersey Meet of Champs has been absolute mess the last 2 years in outdoor. I saw a buddy of mine, Alex Lynch, a coach over at Ocean Township, shared that they let out a proposal, NJSIAA, where they are going to put sectionals May 17th, 18th, groups May 31st, June 1st, and Meet of Champs on the 5th. What do you feel about this proposal, and would it be something that you would be, down for, considering the last 2 years have been an absolute debacle?
Just put it back on Memorial Day weekend. Like it's.
Well, they said there would be no meets on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, but you could do it the week prior, so you don't go to short conference. No one goes anyway, like anymore. It's but like it's
that's what it's become. I think that proposal makes so much sense. I mean, you have kids who nationals is something they've worked for, and they're looking for that the whole year. Now you're having kids pick between the Meet of Champions and nationals. You have kids picking between graduating high school. That happened last year, walking in their graduation and running the Meet of Champions. Like, that should not even be an issue. Like, it should never be that last week of school. When schools are getting out, it should not be this late into the season. I completely agree. It's to go back.
I was at Point Borough's graduation. It was the same day as Meet of Champs, and Blake Slavinsky was putting on his gown over he still had on his uniform because he had to go from Meet of Champs to graduation.
I saw him at the meet. I was like, what are you doing here? He's like, nope, I have to do both. Like, good for him. That's awesome. I mean, I probably would have done the same thing, but shame on the fact that he even had to worry about that. That's just not right.
So here's my biggest question real quick though. And here's what I want as a coach for you. What I want coaches demand. What's the plan B? What is the plan B if a section meet gets disturbed, if a group meet gets disturbed? Because I think the biggest issue is, yes, the schedule was tight and it sucked, but NJSAA did not have a plan B for these past 2 years for what went on. So I feel like as coaches, this proposal is great, but what is the plan B? What is the plan B? Sectional weekend, groups weekend, Meet of Champions?
Yeah.
What is it?
I'm with Dave. What is the point? Why can't we have Memorial Day weekend? You have off on Monday. It's not like you're not getting your 2 days. I don't understand why this is an issue. We had it all in high school. We have no Memorial Day weekend. It's fine. If you want to compete, you'll eat your hot dog and hamburger at your picnic the next day. I don't understand what the big deal is.
I think the issue that we've been hearing, and it's probably valid, is there's such a lack of officials, and that weekend it's very hard to get officials at every site. So, the officials is a whole nother thing. They're great. They're wonderful, but they're all 70 years old, we need
some young blood.
We need some young people into it. And maybe it's because they don't pay enough. Maybe it's, or maybe because most of our generation is actually coaching. So they're not the officials, but that seems to be the biggest reason why they weren't doing it over Memorial Day.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you just can't have nationals and graduations. Meet of Champs was always done in the first week of June.
Always.
It was never even a question. Always.
Yep, it always was. And I know, because I remember even back when I started coaching, I'd have to run Spring Lake 5 in the morning and then go to groups. But now Spring Lake 5 is not that day is that's Memorial Day weekend. Yeah, it's way before anything that even matters. So that's not even an issue anymore. I mean, not that I'm running the Spring Lake 5 anymore, but I remember Spring Lake 5 morning, I had to go to Egg Harbor to go to my state meet, to go watch my girls compete. Maybe an incentive to pay the officials more that work Memorial Day weekend actually wouldn't be a bad idea.
Give them a little bonus to work Memorial. Yeah. Give them a little extra Memorial Day weekend. And so the last question I want to ask you before we go off, which is something that we ask all of our guests, if you had a magic wand and you could fix the sport of track and field, because, we all love the sport. The sport's done great things for all of us, but the sport has an issue. Nobody knows who the hell our greatest athletes are outside of us, because we are track and field junkies. What would you do to fix our sport? If you had a magic wand and they said, Noel, whatever you do, whatever you want to do on this magic wand will happen, what would you do?
Wow, that's a great question. I mean, outside of mile split, who else is looking at that except for the people who are involved in the sport, right? Oh. I mean, it would be pretty cool if there was some more, just maybe some more highlights on a national television broadcast, a major station, highlighting some of the big meets. New Jersey has amazing athletes. New York's right there, major television stations. Maybe they could broadcast Me a Champions. Maybe they could put it out there. I mean, something, or promote it. Something highlighting these amazing kids we have, because New Jersey has some talented kids that people need to know about, not just us in New Jersey, but everywhere needs to know about it too. But we have New York right here. They have major television associates. Maybe they could come help us fill those gaps in.
Yeah,
I like that. I
got one more question for you. How cool is it that one of your old classmates, one of my old rivals, is now the director of track and field at Rutgers University? How cool is that? That a Toms River guy, Bob Farrell, and Coach Jelly, and they're getting all these guys to stay in this state. And
I love that.
They are about to make Rutgers a powerhouse, because we had Bob on, and he even said, like, if we can keep the talent here in Jersey, we're going to compete in the Big Ten. And their recruiting class was great this past year. Amazing. But how cool is that, knowing that, like, you and him graduated high school same year, right? Or was he 97?
So Bob me and Bob have been friends we've known each other since high school. We've been very close since then. Amazing guy. So driven, so passionate about the sport, and everything he does, actually, to be honest with you. And I've known Jelly for years, ever since the three of us were at Toms River North coaching together. And, I just love to see what they're doing. Like, they're taking kids who have been here, and they're just, taking good kids and making them even better. And they're keeping them here, and now there's a great program there where you don't have to go across the country for this great track program. You can just literally go an hour away, which I love.
And they're in the Big Ten, which has some of like the best talent in the country too. So you're going to go compete against the best and go, and hopefully one day we can all see a Rutgers national championship banner go up there. And I think there is a possibility if it happens. They keep New Jersey talent home, they're going to be really good all the time.
And they're both amazing. So I wouldn't doubt it.
We have to have Coach Jelly on. Coach Jelly's going to come on at one point. We got Coach Farrell. We got to get Coach Jelly as well.
Definitely.
Coach Jelly is a legend.
But yes. All right, Noel, thank you so much for coming on. This was so much fun.
Yes.
No, thank you guys so much. I didn't feel worthy, but I appreciate this. I really feel honored to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
Yes. And I thought it was a fantastic 1 year show.
Oh, it was wonderful. And listen, it was like, I've known who you've been forever. We're same town, different schools. Yep. Our running careers definitely crossed paths, and then lo and behold, I start teaching, and I'm in the classroom with your sister.
Yes.
So it's just funny how all these things end. But
yes.
What an amazing career, and thank you so much for being open. I really think that was a very powerful segment that we had, and best of luck in everything. And thank you for coming on.
Thank you to you both. I really appreciate you having me on.
So, Noel, is there anything you want to shout out? Any North cross country social media, track social media that you know of off the top of your head that you want to promote, or anything like that?
Listen, I will say this, the one thing I love about Toms River North are my girls. We might not have the biggest team this year, but these girls have the biggest heart. And I'm telling you, they're going to surprise some people. It's going to be fun. It's going to be good.
I like hearing that. So it's good a promotion as I am.
And I want to know, excited. Who does your guys' Instagram? Because it is fantastic.
Oh, that we always have a senior do that. That's one of them. That's their thing. The seniors, they can do that.
We have, not us. We've had certainly some DM messages with whoever runs it, because they're always sending us things, and we're always giving them a shout out. But they do an amazing job.
They're awesome. They love doing it too.
Yeah. So awesome. We love it. So once again, she is Noel Whitall-Johnson. She's an assistant cross country and distance track coach over at Toms River North High School, and also a fantastic runner in her time. Still currently probably going to go back and kick Master's ass when she is when she's ready to do it. So again, this was a blast. I had a great time. 1 year of talking in ovals, first year of many. If you like what we do, if you like what you heard, give us a like, share, follow, subscribe. Rate 5 stars, Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on the socials. Go look at Talking in Ovals, and let everyone this is the best running show of all time, and it's only going to get better. So everyone, we will all see you next week. So long.